Developed infrastructure. This pillar aims at developing and modernizing the national infrastructure for the purpose of improving the quality of life for all. Development infrastructure means network infrastructure for water supply, wastewater, stormwater, and land transport to the extent that it is controlled by local authorities. Infrastructure can often be produced on a smaller scale by private firms or through local authorities. Also, infrastructure can be classified as soft or hard, and both are essential to the economy and quality of life of a society. This pillar aims to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, also to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Hello and welcome, dear viewers, to our program, New Kuwait, in which we will talk about our National Development Plan and its 7 pillars. In today's episode, we will talk about energy here in Kuwait with our special guest, Dr. Nizar Khatib, a professor at the College of Technological Studies. Hello and welcome, Dr. Nizar.
Welcome, thank you.
Let's talk about the energy grid here, or power grid here in Kuwait. Tell us about it.
Well, in Kuwait, we have the most reliable and up-to-date, technologically up-to-date grid, and it is ever expanding with the expansion of cities being built and developed around Kuwait. And it is a process that is ongoing and always in demand, meaning the growth in the demand for power makes it essential that the grid be able to absorb and deliver to the consumers the amount needed to the positions where they're built in the new positions. We have a little bottleneck that has developed during the years. The main Kuwait city expansion was mainly going southward from Kuwait city center towards the Saudi-Kuwaiti border, all the cities being developed in the south. And from that strategic development, most of the power station generations have been built in the south region.
Okay.
So the expansion of Kuwait city southward towards the Saudi-Kuwaiti border made our natural way to build our power stations to be concentrated in the south. We have Shaiba power station, Azor, with its several stages, and 2 other major power stations are being designed and built right as we speak. Al Khiran power station and Al Nuwaisib. Al Nuwaisib is going to be very huge, in the range of 7,000 megawatts of power generation.
Yes.
And all these formed a bottleneck to the north expansion. When Al Mutla city was built, we were faced with the dilemma of how to evacuate the power from the southern power stations to the north. And of course, in the future, there are many cities that are being planned to be built northward. And that created, let's say, a bottleneck that was not foreseen in the past. Even the power grid support that comes to us from the Gulf connections, let's say grids, that's called the GCC International something power generation that we usually buy from that establishment. It's also connected from the south, from Al Khiran point or Al Zor point, which is also southward. So the grid has been now designed to expand northward. And
is it easy to expand to the north?
Yes, it is easy. However, it is a process that takes 3 years average to go northward.
Yes. I will ask you
160 kilometers
yes.
of lines going there. Now, Al Shigaya Renewable Power Station already has in its structure 2 grid lines that connect with the Sabiya North and with the Zor South. And we have new plans to connect it to the middle section from Al Slabiya or Al Fantas to connect directly to them. That will still require us to connect it to push the network even more north. Now with Al Mutla being built, several stations, point stations, substations, they're called the 400 kV pole station. They are operational there, and they are actually more than what is required of it now. But for future projects that are going to come in the future, we have to either expand the grid northward even more to Abdili, Wafra, Abdili Farms. And there is another area called, I think it's called I'm not sure, but I think it's called the Rotain or Nasriya or Al Abdiliya. There are new cities that are being designed for the future.
And Kuwait.
It's close to Bobian,
Okay.
north. We might need to build power stations and expand the grids even north. This I haven't seen on plans yet, but I think it's being planned for in the future for these operations to be continuous.
Inshallah. You said the power grid here in Kuwait is brilliant. It's good.
Yes.
For me, because, excuse my ignorance, because I don't know about the scientific ways of having a good grid here in Kuwait. Is it that Kuwait is a flat land?
Yeah.
It's easy to have a good
Absolutely.
grid?
Yes, of course, the topology, Kuwait geography, and
So it will be
it's easier. There are two types of grids in the grid. There is something called the power transmission grid, and then the other one is called the power distribution grid. The power
Yes.
distribution grid, which is inner city, between the houses, you have the small transformers that have lower voltage to deal with, which is the low voltage of 220, 240 for the houses, up to 480. That's how much voltage sent to houses. But the transmission grids, they are very high voltage, 400,000 volts, and they raise the voltage like that, so they have minimal losses of power traveling the distance, long distance of 100 to 200 kilometers. So we raise the voltage high. That, in a sense, physically reduces the losses in the grid. Our grid is very modern, up to date, and it is the best quality type grid with the top international companies that we usually contract with for the past 50 and 60 years. So from that side, we have the latest technological grids. We're not afraid of. Plus the control centers, they're also up to the technological edge. And we are adapting new softwares that based on the smart grid type networks with the monitoring systems that is very cutting edge when it comes to technology. We are integrating what is called the technology of IoT, Internet of Things. AI is being also investigated to how to integrate it to protect the grid's vulnerabilities, especially with the hacking, let's say, genre that attacks power grids in industrial nations. We also think of how to protect ourselves from any outside intervention of unwanted entities that try to jeopardize the grid structure and interrupt the safe, stable production and delivery of these powers. So we have all these systems working on and being developed continuously, and the ministry is always up to date with these technologies, and any new vulnerabilities that appear suddenly, we try to handle them accordingly.
It's really delightful to know about this information about the power grid in Kuwait. There are a lot of complaints coming from north of Kuwait, in the south also, because there are a lot of farmers. They use their generators to work in their farms. Is there a quick solution for them, at least for now?
Well, most of the complaints occur on the peak period. We have the month from, let's say, June till the end of August, 3 months in particular, that we have very high demand on the grid. And last summer, let's say, we were in a safe zone. We were operating in a critical zone, but it was very safe. We were comfortable. We found many ways to solve those shortages that occur in the demand of power.
Yes.
We are limited in the power production, and during the summer hours, those when the temperature reaches 50 or 55, that put a strain on the network, and we try very hard to accommodate everyone. We have a plan, however, if we reach an unsafe zone of operation where you're pushing your gas turbines, because that's what we are, gas turbines or steam turbines, to the maximum limit. That is a dangerous way to operate these devices. Let me give you an example. If you have a car and the car speedometer rating gives you 260 kilometers per hour speed.
Yes.
You don't push that limit for under any circumstances. The manufacturer tells you, hey, I made this car, it can go 260 kilometers per hour. But reasonably, you will say, okay, I'm not going to use 260, 160. That will be safe operation mode. If you work that automobile on 260 continuously for 3 months, something bound to happen.
Yes.
Either accidents or breakdown because you're pushing the limits. We're not allowed to go to that because that would be unsafe operation of our engine. Even with the operation of safe levels of operating those turbines, not reaching the maximums, things happen and these are mechanical products. Something happens and an error will appear and a turbine will shut down automatically. I'm saying all that is because the first contingency plan, if we are going to, let's say, take the power and dedicate it to what is really needed and what is we can postpone. العبدلي مزارع the farms in Abdili and Wafra, we can say, hey, listen, or the industrial factories, we tell them avoid to work in the peak hours from 12 o'clock in the afternoon till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when everybody's hitting the ACs and the demand for the housing sector is peak. So we tell them, listen, you push your operations to safer time zones, or we're going to have to cut the electricity for these periods to manage it. We haven't reached that cutting programs to be implemented in full, but it is an option we have, and sometimes it is forced on us.
Yes.
There are safety mechanisms that kick in when the loads overshoot. We have stabilizer technologies that stabilize the grid, but next summer is going to be a very big challenge for the ministry to provide what is needed from the demand side and make things available generation-wise. These mechanisms, if we reach those critical regions, we might have to go to those people that first tell them we're going to have to turn you off for a while and you can start at a later hour doing your business. Other things is, like you said, we are running campaigns, educational campaigns.
Raise awareness.
Yeah, it raises the awareness on people to help us by turning off what's not needed and only use the electricity with the intention of maximizing the use to your benefit, and don't push the levels of demand where we cannot, as a ministry, meet your request or demand for the energy.
And from our show New Kuwait, we raise awareness about usage of electricity. Very simple and indeed informative. Thank you so much, Dr. Mizan. Sustainable living environment. This pillar aims at ensuring the availability of living accommodation through environmentally sound resources and tactics. Sustainable living is achieved by making choices that aim to reduce our individual and collective environmental impact by making positive changes to offset climate change and reduce environmental damage. Sustainability means making choices today that will positively impact the planet tomorrow. It means thinking of the needs of the future generations by ensuring that they will inherit a safe and healthy planet to live and thrive on. This pillar ensures healthy lives and promotes well-being for all at all ages here in Kuwait. Hello and welcome, dear viewers, to our program, New Kuwait. In our program, we discuss our National Development Plan and its 7 pillars to achieve the 2035 New Kuwait. In today's episode with us, special guest, sustainable energy expert, Engineer Ahmed Al-Azmi. Hello and welcome, Engineer Ahmed.
Hello, Saad, and thanks for having me again with you.
You are most welcome. We talked about our project in sustainable energy field in Kuwait. We talked about Ashigaya projects. Could you elaborate more about this project? Because you told us in the previous episode about new sustainable energy here in Kuwait.
Yeah, Saad, as we discussed last week regarding the commercial pilot project that consists of 3 technologies, again, photovoltaic, solar photovoltaic, solar concentrated solar power, and the windmills or wind energy. From those concepts, the government, some government institutions, and as we said previously, the Ministry of Electricity and Water and Renewable Energy, and KISR and CAP, they are working together to develop the rest of the land, which is 84 kilometer square. These technologies, it will be within the development, the developed technologies for the 84 kilometer square. It will be within these technologies for the commercial pilot project. Solar. Let's say the data from the commercial pilot project. Solar was, in general, very successful, plus the wind, very successful concept that was applied in Kuwait. It gives a great energy output to feed the national grid.
Yes. To know about sustainable energy, as you know, this subject is, a lot of people don't know about this subject, and a lot of terms of technology and scientific terms. You just said, and we thank you to come here in the show to tell the viewers about this project. So in Ashigaya project is to sustain the energy. To the average viewer, I asked you in the previous episode, and we'll say it again. Why do we need sustainable energy of renewable sources?
Once again, as we discussed previously on the last episode, Saad, why do we need it? It's something related to control the emission in the world that emitted from the industrial institutions around the world. Look for big industrial countries. It emits much CO2. Here in Kuwait, it can be calculated per capita. In Kuwait, we have some CO2 emissions.
Is it high in Kuwait?
Exactly. Well, not the highest, but it is high in general. Okay. Yeah, it is high, and that assists the raise of temperature as you know in Kuwait, and as you know, Kuwait is one of the hottest spots in the world.
Yes,
and that in the future, let's say 40 or 50 years, the upcoming 40 or 50 years, it will be a big worry about in our country So to control that CO2, first of all, you control the temperature, because the more CO2 you have, the more temperature. You can feel that even in the rooms. If you are sitting in your bedroom and or let's say in the living room, and you have some companies, the temperature will increase because of the CO2. That's a simple example for that. So to control that CO2, you need to, let's say, give some partial energy from clean energy or sustainable, let's say, renewable energy that doesn't emit any CO2. That's like a simple brief about why do we need.
Do you think in the future we will live in a time that 100% from renewable energy sources?
That's a great question.
Do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's in Kuwait. If you want to talk about the worldwide, some countries, yes. Why? Because some countries has waterfalls. We don't have waterfalls in Kuwait. The wind doesn't always blow. The sun, you don't have sun 24 hours, but you have energy storage, and that's kind of a little bit. I'm not saying not feasible, but a little bit high price to get that energy storage, and so in some countries like Kuwait, we don't have let's say the natural resources beside the sun and wind, like other countries in Europe, in North Africa.
Why? Because the sun and wind is less.
It's less
than the
exactly
waterfalls
exactly the let's say the hydropower. It's called hydropower. It's an example like what's happening in the dam. النهضة Dam, سد النهضة.
Yes.
This is a great example, a close example, and this is more sustainable. It gives more power, but we don't have, again, waterfalls in Kuwait. Some countries, let's say in Europe, I want to give you an example about, for example, Sweden. It might reach, because with the development of the cars right now, gasoline, the electrification of the cars, it's the now. Within these years from 2013, let's say up to 2030, some countries in Europe will flip to electrical vehicles that will help to reduce the emissions. They have more natural resources. They have volcanoes. They have waterfalls. They have rivers. They have everything. More natural resource, but they don't have sun like Kuwait.
Yes.
They don't have they have wind, good wind, like us. But us, it's difficult. Let's say with the development of the storage technology and some other technology for solar and wind, we might, but I don't promise that.
Yes. Let's talk about the energy that we get from waterfalls or the sun. Let's compare to. It's all electricity, right?
Yeah, it's all.
And where is the problem? In Kuwait, we can have 10 hours of sun. Do you mean like it's hard to store this energy? Is it that the reason because other energy sources? Or is it similar?
Another good question. I like your questions, by the way. It's okay. Let's talk about the hydropower. Hydropower. When you have a dam and stop the water, and the water flows from the river coming to you, and that creates more force, and you are holding that huge force, and then in one time you give the water, you push the water to generate electricity by the turbines, let's say the water turbines. Versus here, or let's say the sun, using sun, solar. Sun, let's say 10 hours. And if you want to talk about the solar energy, photovoltaic, if you saw some panels if you walk around your city, the walkaways, you will see some street lamp with the solar panels. That's the PV. It's called PV.
And it's the plate.
It's like a plate, simple plates, like 1 meter by 2 meters with the big ones.
Yes.
That gets around 20% of the energy of the sun radiance. For example, for 1 meter square, the sun gives you 1,500 watts. For each 1,500, for each meter square, it gives you 1,500 watts. The panels, for 1 meter square of panels, it gives you the 20% of that total energy comes from the sun. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, you have 10 hours. You don't have 24 hours. Therefore, the rest of the day, you have to keep that extra energy to use it later. Number three, and that's one of the drawbacks of the solar.
Yes.
You have to have the storage, and the storage a little bit high price, but it's, let's say, for the very long term, it's feasible. If it's big scale and long term, it's feasible.
Let's talk about the storage. When you get the electricity from the sun, the storage is
how you store it?
How do you store it, and is it worth it to store, like to have big stores?
Exactly. For the dam, for example, for the hydropower, you are storing the water. This is a storage. You can call that storage. But for the sun and wind, you need storages, something like batteries. Number one.
Yes.
Thermal storage. It's when you keep a very high temperature, store it, and then you use it to run turbines. Use it by having using the water vapor with the pressure and that dynamics to generate electricity. Thermal storage, capacitors, the hydro storage as well, using some hydraulics. So that the rest of the storage technologies are very not feasible. But the most challenging storage technologies are the batteries and the thermal storage.
It's very interesting to know about this information from you, Engineer Ahmed. Thank you so much for coming here in New Kuwait program and share all of this information.
And thank you again for all of you and your crew members for having me.
You are most welcome.
Thank you.
That was sustainable energy expert, Engineer Ahmed Al-Azmi. And with that, dear viewers, we conclude our episode. Thank you for watching.